If you want to open up in your Bibles or scroll on your Bible apps to the book of Ecclesiastes, we'll be there shortly. It's in the Old Testament, about halfway through the Old Testament. The book of Ecclesiastes. We're going to be starting in chapter 2 here in just a minute. If you haven't been with us for the last couple of weeks, we started a couple of weeks ago talking about life hacks and things that we can find that will make our lives easier, make certain aspects of our lives easier, more convenient. You can Google all sorts of different life hacks for all different sorts of things going on in your life on a regular daily basis. And what we're doing is taking the same concept and going, what about like my attitude, my relationships, my connections, those parts of my lives? What can I do to improve those things? If I'm looking at a certain aspect of my life, whether it's my job or my marriage or my relationship with my kids, my friendships, my church life, my faith, how can I improve that? What are some things that I can do to make those parts of my life better? It's not necessarily that they're non-existent, although some of those things may be for some of us, or that they're broken or damaged or beyond repair. It's just looking at things that could be better than what they are. And I could be participating in those things better than the way that I am. How do I do that? That's what we're talking about on Sunday mornings right now. And specifically this morning, we're going to be talking about work hacks. We're going to be talking about some solutions to either help us enjoy the workplace more, or at least to use our jobs as a place, as a time to honor God and a time to bless others and to see our work as an opportunity to be blessed by God as well. So that's what we're talking about this morning. Now, I did want to share with you a couple of work hacks, especially if you have an office that you work in on a regular basis. There are all sorts of lists of different things that you can find, just basic office supplies to make your life better. Sometimes you just got a dirty keyboard, and this is one of those things I never knew I could do this. I may start doing this, on my own keyboard from now on, but you can take a Post-it note, and all those crumbs and dust and everything down there in the keyboard, you can just slide the sticky part of that Post-it note in and slide it across there, and that is disgusting. So I'm just going to kind of wad that up and throw it down here. That's pretty gross. I dug that keyboard out of a closet, so I'm sure it's not my dirt or anything. That's a really easy way to clean out your keyboard. Also, if you either want to listen to your music or have a video or something that you want to watch, there's several different hacks for holding your smartphone up, especially if you got a video or something that you want to watch. One is to take some now you got to use the big clips and get I've used a label from our children's center here to kind of hold them together. But you take your smartphone and then you can just set it right in between like that. Yeah, I like that one, right? So there you go. So yeah, you can use this at school too. I'm sure your teachers would appreciate that. That'd be awesome. Or if you're like me and you still, for some reason, hold on to your old cassette tapes. Now, kids, cassette tapes were these tapes, these objects. I'm just kidding. You can take a tape case, if you don't have binder clips and stuff like that, and just set your phone in it like that. Yeah. And some of you are like, I got 50 of those in my house right now. So just a few little work hacks for you. If you want to use those, that's free of charge. If nothing else, you can leave here today going, I know something I can do at my office tomorrow that will amaze my coworkers, all right? Forbes magazine in 2014 shared a survey that said 52.3% of Americans are unhappy at work. So if we just, matter of fact, let me do this. I won't even mess with the teenagers because I know how they feel about school. So let's say if you have a part-time or full-time job, would you stand right now? I'm including parents who have to stay at home and work taking care of their kids, because that is a full-time job too. So y'all can stand up too. Okay. Now, look around, see how many people there are? Okay. Statistically, the person next to you is unhappy at work. Okay? Half of this crowd, statistically, is unhappy at work. All right? Have a seat. Some of you, Brandon's happy at work, I guarantee it. There's no better place to be, is there? I mean, this is awesome. Yeah. Some of y'all are looking at your spouse going, really? Do we need to have a talk after church today? Think about that. And you may not actually feel that way. I'm just saying, statistically speaking, half of our country that is employed on a full-time basis is not happy with their work. That's not the way it should be. Now, there's all sorts of things at work that can bother us or stress us or drive us crazy. We talked last week about stress hacks and how to deal with stress and anxiety in our lives. And if you weren't here for that, I would encourage you to go to our website or our YouTube channel and take a look at that and find out some ways that you can deal with stress and anxiety better. There's all sorts of things that happen. There's projects that come up. There's things that we don't necessarily like. But this is talking about people who on a daily basis wake up every day going, man, I do not want to go to work today. Not because they're just tired, but because they don't want to be there. You may be one of those people. And there is no judgment here whatsoever. You may be one of those people that just is unhappy with the environment that you're in. You just don't like being at that particular place. Maybe there's certain people in your office area or in your warehouse or wherever it is that you work. Maybe there's a manager that's over you that you can't stand. Maybe there's employees under you that you can't stand. Maybe both. Maybe you're not happy with your salary. Maybe you're not happy with just what you're doing. It's not what you saw yourself doing at this point in your life. Maybe you're worried about job security. That's a big fear in our economy, in our nation nowadays. Am I going to have this job? What are the things I'm going to have to do in order to maintain this job that I may not even like doing? And you may be frustrated with your job, and I want you to understand, if I'm describing you this morning, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that feel that way. And it's not new. It's not a new feeling. People have struggled for centuries with the work that they do. When we go to the book of Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiastes was written by a man named Solomon. And Solomon was one of the wisest people that ever lived. God bless him with incredible wisdom. People would come from all over, from hundreds of miles away to come ask questions to Solomon and find out how he would answer them. He was just that brilliant. But he was also, at the time that he lived, one of the wealthiest kings in the ancient world. And just one part of his wealth came from having 6 tons of gold delivered to his kingdom every single year. That's how wealthy Solomon was. Okay? So here's this wealthy man, this wise man who had building projects. He had 1,000 women in his life. Not kidding. 700 wives, 300 girlfriends. He had 1,000 women in his life. So there's all the things that we look at and go, that's a fulfilling life. He's got popularity. He's got wisdom. He's got money. He's got power. He's got charm, I guess. He's got all these different things that we would look at as making him successful. And he gets to the end of his life, and you read through the book of Ecclesiastes. Don't read through Ecclesiastes if you're already in a bad mood, because it'll just make things worse. But he's depressed. He's looking around at his life, and he's looking back at his life and going, I feel like this whole thing has been meaningless. And he takes specific parts of his life and says, I don't see the point in this. I'm frustrated with this. In Ecclesiastes chapter 2, if you're there, look at verse 17. Solomon says, I hated life because the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me, and all of it is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Solomon said he looked at all that he had done and all that he had accomplished and all the things that other people were doing, and he just hated it. It was depressing to him. It seemed pointless. You skip down a few verses to verse 22, and he says, what do people get for all their toil and anxious striving with which they labor under the sun? All their days, their work is grief and pain. Even at night, their minds do not rest, and this too is meaningless. Solomon has a really negative view of work. Some of you may have heard, some of you may even remember, in 1955, Tennessee Ford had a really popular song called 16 Tons. Anybody ever heard the chorus of that song? 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. That's what Solomon is talking about here. I'm working. I'm doing everything I can to advance myself in this life, in this world. I'm accomplishing all these things, and for what? All I get and all anybody gets is grief and pain. And can't even sleep at night because I'm so stressed that I might lose what I have, or that I got to get up tomorrow and do more to maintain what I've got. It's a very negative view of life. And I would venture to say, with this many people in this room, there's probably somebody in here, maybe several somebodies, they're going, yeah, I know how he feels. But then flip over to the next page, or scroll a little further to chapter 3. And in verse 13, Solomon says that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil and all their work. This is the gift of God. And if you go to chapter 5 and verse 19, he says basically the same thing. When God gives someone wealth and possessions and the ability to enjoy them and to accept their lot and to be happy in their toil, to be happy in their job, to enjoy work, this is a gift of God. And Solomon says that when you enjoy your job, when you find satisfaction and fulfillment in the work that you do, that's a gift, that's a blessing from God. And it's something to be valued, and it's something to be treasured, because obviously not everybody feels that way. And the question that we need to answer in just a short time this morning is, okay, how do I get there? How do I receive that gift? How do I get to the point where I enjoy my work? And I don't know what you came here expecting this morning when you knew that we were talking about work hacks. I can't necessarily tell you how to do your individual job a whole lot better. You go to all sorts of training things on your own to find out how to do your particular job better. And some of those training events you can't stand either, and I won't even talk about those. But I don't. There's so many different areas of work that are represented in this room. I can't tell all of you exactly, here's the things you do to make your particular job better or make you more productive at it. You're going to have to figure some of that stuff out on your own. What I want to address this morning, the work hacks that I want to give you, are how do I look at this, my perspective on this, my attitude towards this, how can I make that better? How can I move from being miserable when I get up in the morning because I've got to go to work and being miserable while I'm at work? How do I move from that to, man, I get to go to work today, and I'm going to be productive, and I'm going to do the best job, whatever that job is, I'm going to do the best job that I can. How do I change that perspective? Let me give you some hacks, some steps, some solutions this morning. First thing is your attitude. What kind of attitude do you have towards work? When you wake up in the morning, are you thinking, all right, I get to do stuff today. I'm going to accomplish something. Or are you thinking, oh, I have to go to that awful place again? Your attitude towards your work will determine how you work. People who complain and gripe and talk negatively to or about their coworkers or their employers or their employees statistics show they're less productive. They're often slower to advance in the company that they're in. Paul says in Philippians chapter 2 and verse 14, he says, do everything without complaining or arguing. That doesn't leave a whole lot of wiggle room, does it? He doesn't say, do the things that you like to do without complaining or arguing. He says, do everything. Every single aspect of your life, including your job, including the parts of your job that aren't that much fun. Do those things without complaining, without arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a crooked and depraved generation in which you shine like stars in the universe. He uses this visual picture of stars shining, in a dark sky. And he says that's what we need to look like in a culture that is full of negativity and depression and anger and frustration and anxiety. Our world, our community, our workplaces can be dark places sometimes. And Paul says you need to have an attitude so that you shine. In a place full of darkness, you stand out. You look different than everybody else because of your attitude, because of your perspective. He also says in Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 29, don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that may benefit those who listen. Gossiping about coworkers. Gossiping behind the back of your employers. Griping about the work that you got to do. Those words, that attitude, that mindset is corrosive. It tears down the workplace. And I would go so far as to say, according to Paul here, it's sinful. With the gossip, with the negativity that comes out of your mouth, you are being an ungodly person. You are tearing down instead of building up, instead of lifting up and encouraging. We need to have an attitude that builds people up, that builds our coworkers up instead of tearing them down. You want to find more joy and more fulfillment in the work you do? Change your attitude. You don't have to be fake. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to walk around going, I'm being positive today. Start by holding your tongue here and there. Start by telling somebody, hey, you're doing a good job. Even if you know they could be doing better. Start by finding something positive to at least think about your coworkers. Maybe even say out loud every once in a while. Change your attitude, it'll change the way you work. Second work hack is to find balance. As much as possible, we need to have balance in our lives. I don't know if you've ever driven in a vehicle where the tires are unbalanced. I've done that before. This church family knows I'm not one to necessarily keep up on a consistent basis with maintenance of my car. And there are times when my tires have been unbalanced, and if I were to let go of the wheel, I'd be making a right-hand turn because things aren't balanced. And when things aren't balanced in your car starts to steer more in that direction. And the same principle applies to our lives. If I don't have balance between work and my marriage and my family and my entertainment and my leisure time, I'll end up steering my life too much in one direction to the detriment of the others. Going back to Solomon's words in Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 5, he says, fools fold their hands and ruin themselves. And then he goes on in verse 6 and he says, better one handful with tranquility than two handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. So he says, the foolish people in this world just sit around and do nothing. Just fold their hands and life is good. He says they ruin themselves. But then he says it's better to have some work and some rest time rather than nothing but work. Seems like a contradiction, doesn't it? Seems like Solomon is saying, don't rest, but you need to rest. Well, which one is it? And actually, both are true. If I fold my hands and do nothing, that's just laziness. If I just sit around and do nothing and just wait for things to be done for me, that is laziness. And I'll end up in debt, and I'll end up losing friendships and destroying other aspects of my life. On the other hand, if I have two handfuls of work, if all my time and all my focus is devoted to my job, if I sacrifice time with my family, time with my kids, time with my spouse, if I sacrifice rest for the sake of my job and getting that next step higher up the ladder and trying to get that bigger salary so I can get the more stuff so I can go back to work and earn more so I can pay for the stuff that I just got, I'll sacrifice my marriage. I'll lose my connection with my kids. I might even lose my faith because I've gotten unbalanced and I'm steering too much in one direction. And many of us struggle with finding joy and purpose in our work because we're unbalanced. We're choosing work over everything else in our life, and it's steering us the wrong direction. We need to check our attitude. We need to have balance in our life, and we need to have some integrity. We need to have some integrity. If you want to work better, if you want to be more productive, if you want to enjoy your work more, be a person of integrity. And what that means is that I'm consistent, that I do what I say I'm going to do. That when I say this is the project that I'm going to accomplish, or I'm going to meet things by this deadline, or I'm going to take care of this for you, then I actually do those things. I keep my word. I don't undermine my fellow employees. I don't act one way around them and then talk bad about them or try to undermine them in some way behind their back. I don't cheat my company out of a solid work day. I don't get paid for work that I didn't do. When I show up for work, I work. And I do the best job that I can. I'm dependable. I can be trusted. I'm honest. I'm genuine. I'm sincere. These are all parts of being a person of integrity. And I do those things. Here's the key part of it. I do those things whether anybody's watching or not. Whether it means I get a promotion or not. Whether it means I even get a pat on the back or not. I do those things because they're the right thing to do. I do those things whether I ever get any notice of it whatsoever. But because I'm in this position and because I have the opportunity to do good, I'm going to do good. I'm going to do the best job that I can. Jesus said in Luke chapter 16, verse 10, anyone who can be trusted in little matters can also be trusted in important matters. But anyone who is dishonest in little matters will be dishonest in important matters. If I'm a person of integrity, I do the little things as well as the big things. If I say I'll take out the trash in the office, I'll take out the trash in the office, even though it's kind of a little thing. And the more that I do those things and keep my word and I'm dependable and I show up, the more I will be trusted with bigger projects. The more I'll be trusted to do bigger things. The more people in the company know that they can count on me because I'm doing the things that I said I would do. I'm a person of integrity. To be quite honest with you, it's something that's beginning to be absent in a lot of our workplaces. We're finding fewer and fewer people who have integrity. They'll do the right thing as long as it means they might get caught if they don't. But whatever they can get away with, whether it's sneaking off early, whether it's maybe not fully reporting income on taxes, whether it's talking bad about somebody until they're in the room and then doing nothing but praising them, we're having fewer and fewer people who know and practice integrity in the workplace. Let's not be those kind of people. You will enjoy your work more if you have more integrity doing it. We're short on time this morning, so I wanted to share with you, I guess, those things that I share with you are kind of vague. I mean, how do we measure whether we have a better attitude or not? How do we measure if we got balance or not, or being a person of integrity? And that's really kind of, you have to do your own self-check. Am I needing improvement in these areas? What do I need to do different? But as we get ready to go back to work tomorrow, what are some things besides these work hacks that we talked about? What are some things that I can be reminded of, that I can constantly remind myself of, that will help me accomplish these different things, that will help me have a better attitude, that will help me have more balance in my life, that will help me have more integrity in the way that I work? Let me give you 3 quick reminders. We'll be done this morning. Things that I need, and maybe you want to write these down. Maybe you want to put them in your phone so you can bring them up on a screen later and remind yourself of them often. Why I do what I do. Why do I have this job, and why do I work to pay these bills and to buy food? And it has to be more than just the paycheck. Why do I do what I do? Number 1 reason should be, I work to bless my family. I work to be a blessing to my family. I work to provide blessings for my family. Paul says to Timothy in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8, anyone who does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Man, Paul, why don't you be a little blunt? You don't work to provide for your family. You don't work to meet the needs of your family, you're worse than an unbeliever. You're worse than somebody who doesn't even believe in Jesus. It's harsh words, but Paul is reminding us that God cares for us, his children, that God provides for us, that God meets our needs, that he takes care of us. And if we are the children of God, and if we wear his name in every aspect of our lives, then we need to be like him in every aspect of our lives, which includes taking care of our families, taking care of the people that we care about. If not, we are in essence walking away from our faith. We are walking away from the image that we've been created in. We are walking away from the name that we are called to live under. My salary helps meet the needs of my family. My work helps me take care of and provide for my family. And the way that I work provides an example to my family of how they should work. And even if you only have a part-time job, and even if, like I said, we got moms and dads here who stay at home and take care of their kids and never get any kind of financial salary for doing that. You still do the work you do to provide for your family. You are meeting needs. You are taking care of your family. You are providing for them. That's why you do what you do. And maybe some of us need that reminder this morning. I'm doing this. I'm working at this. I'm putting in the time that I'm putting in because I want to bless my family. I also do it to bless others. I work to bless others. If I'm just working for me, if my job is just about getting more stuff and I only do the work that I do so that I can keep up with my neighbors and friends and have all the things that they have or have bigger and better than what I already have, if that's the only reason I'm doing this job, I may need to reconsider why I'm doing what I'm doing. As men and women of God, we are called, we are commanded to think of others, to meet other people's needs. Well, that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to work hard or try for promotions, that we shouldn't have good paychecks, and that we shouldn't have, big houses and nice cars and all those things. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, if that's the only reason that we're doing those things, is to get more stuff, to get bigger stuff, to get more status for ourselves, then we're doing it for the wrong reason, and we're working where we work with a wrong heart. Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, you will be enriched in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. Paul said God is going to build up my paycheck. God is going to build up my stuff so that I can be generous for those things. Not that I can keep hoarding those things and walk around going, look how much I make. Look how much stuff I have. But to actually go, look how much I'm giving away. Look at what God is doing in the lives of these people, and I'm getting to participate in that. I'm getting to be a part of that. That needs to be our mindset with our jobs. How can I use what I'm doing to bless other people? And it's the exact opposite mindset of many people in our workplaces. It's the opposite mindset of our culture as a whole. It is the exact image of our gracious, giving God. And one of the reasons that I might be dissatisfied at my job is because I've forgotten, or maybe not even realized, how to use my job or my salary or my stuff to bless other people. I need to remember that God is generous with me. That God blesses me in more ways than I can count. And he's generous with me so that I can be generous with others. If the only reason I'm working is for me, I am going to be miserable. It's not going to be fun. But if I remember that I'm working, I'm doing this to bless my family and bless other people, I'm going to find more purpose and more enjoyment in what I do. Lastly, I got to quit. Lastly, I do work to honor God. The way that I work says something about the God that I serve. I got to tell you, I wish I had a picture of it. My dad ran an auction business it was in the family for decades before I was born. And then when I was 7 years old, we moved back to Fort Smith, Arkansas, and he took over the family auction business and worked at that until he retired about 10 years ago. And there was a time when I was a kid that my job at the auctions, I had other jobs setting up the auctions and stuff. My job at the auction itself was I was basically a gopher. The clerk would write down what was being sold, and once she had written that down, several tickets, it was my job to go to wade my way through the crowd, get those tickets, and take them back to the office so they could enter those things into the computer. It was my job to bring water to the auctioneers. It was my job to help people load stuff. It was my job to move stuff out of the way. Anything that needed to be done, any little tedious task and nobody had the time or the desire to do, that was my job. And there was a time for my dad's auction business. It was called Dale Brown Associates Auctioneers. And there was a time when he provided everyone that worked for him on sale day these gold vests, these gold-colored vests. And you wore this vest over whatever shirt that you were wearing, and it had just a little clasp to kind of hold together right here. And on the back in big black letters, there was a picture of a gavel banging, and it said, Dale Brown Associates Auctioneers. And you were supposed to, even me, as a kid, was supposed to wear that vest. And I wore it with pride. I'm like, put my vest on. I'm official. You have to get out of my way now. Got the vest on. Anybody that was wearing that vest was a representative of the company. And whatever you did at that particular auction sale while you were wearing that vest reflected on my dad. We wear the name of Jesus Christ. We are the children of God. The way that we work and the attitude that we have while we work and the way we treat the people that we work with reflects on the one whose name we wear. Does that make sense? So ask yourself this morning, what kind of name am I giving my Father? What do people know about Jesus through what they see in me at the workplace? Paul says in Colossians chapter 3, whatever you do, in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. I wear the name of Jesus everywhere I go, including my job. I need to work in a way that brings honor to him. We're going to stand in just a moment. We're going to sing a song together. It's a prayer to God, asking God to help us with everything that we do on a daily basis. Just, as a matter of fact, it's even just for today. God, for today, help me be the kind of person you want me to be. Help the words come out of my mouth be your words. Help the actions that I participate in be in your actions. God, help me bring honor to your name today. What if we made that our prayer every single day? What if you got up in the morning and said, Lord, no matter what happens at work today, may I do what I do in your name? And then we tried to live that way. We tried to work that way. What do you think our workplaces would be like? What do you think our world would be like? We're going to stand together when we sing that song. We're going to invite you. If you don't have a connection with God, if you walked away from that connection with God and you want it back so that you can be better empowered to work in his name beginning tomorrow, we want to do that. We invite you to come forward and share with us whatever need you have. We want to help. While together we stand and sing.
Father God, just for today, help me walk your narrow way. Help me stand